I
And
don't.
three, two, one, go. Hey, what's up, y'all?
Hey, hey,
What's
what's
up,
good, IQ
y'all?
crew?
What's
Cool, back
up?
at it, back at it. Good to see y'all beautiful faces.
Thank you. I appreciate
Um,
that.
yeah, y'all glowing. Y'all got a glow right now. I got a glow right now. We all glowing.
What, what are you even saying, Jordan?
I don't know what I'm ever saying half the time I'm speaking, but
Just words and things, you know? Just the vibes.
right. It's got a vibe. Well, first of all, hey world. I hope y'all digging the vibes. We got the IQ crew here today. Going to talk about censorship in tech and kind of what's been going on and what the worst case scenario can look like, and really just trying to figure out, like how can like what's the fine balance between doing something and not doing something.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah?
but I'm Jordan Leopold, and I've been in tech for about 4 years. Spent most of my time in sales, and right now I'm actually working with two venture funds as I'm entering venture capital, so I can help allocate money towards things that I think are important, like climate tech and trying to save the world and making sure Black and Brown folks got some money. And with me I got Angela.
Hey, y'all, what's up? I'm Angela. So my background is actually econ and finance. Did a little bit of time in politics, and campaigns. Now I'm in tech. Been in tech for 2.5 years right now, and I've been in sales the whole time. Just have some opinions, like to talk with my friends, Jordan and Terrence.
Perfect. And I'm Terrence. I've been working in tech for about 2 years now, and I do sales, so I talk to strangers for a living. So, as a natural introvert, that was definitely weird for me to get used to, but now I know how to say some words and sound confident sometimes. So, we're making improvements here. And yeah, so here to talk with my buds. I've been thinking, pontificating, and yeah, I've got some opinions.
Okay, about to unravel them thoughts you've been pontificating, whatever you said. I've never heard that word before.
Pontificating.
Pontificated. Cool. I gotta add that
Mhm.
to my dictionary. But dope. Well, hey, it's good to hang out with y'all, and just kind of figure out what's going on in the world. I gotta say, it's been a pretty interesting, pretty interesting like start to the year. Just like
Mhm.
obviously the Capitol riots and what came after that, and you know, big tech's responsibility and like their influence in reacting and handling it to, just looking at the greater conversation about censorship months before, years before, and really just trying to figure out like what should big tech do when it comes to like freedom of speech and fake news and election manipulation. And so I just want to hear your thoughts on that and kind of just trying to make sense of it. But I'll kick things off. So just for folks to kind of like understand what happened recently within censorship and tech. So as we know, the Capitol riots happened, I believe January 6th, and the lead up to that, many people that partook and organized that the riot itself, they used a variety of social media platforms, of course. It's 2021, and so they
Mhm.
use like Twitter, they use Facebook groups, they use Parlor and Gab, which both of those are more right wing leaning, and they use those platforms in order to get together and plan this thing out. And obviously, we saw what happened. Four people and a police officer died, and many other people injured. And it was just a scary moment in history. And so, what happened? So, tech reacted because Donald Trump used his platform on social media, ultimately encouraging these acts. And to be honest, he's been encouraging this hostility for months, if not for forever, since he was running and became president. But especially during election season, he was, you know, planting the idea that if he loses, it's because of, uh, like a rigged election, and then he lost, and never even owning to the fact that he lost and that the elections were rigged, and kind of just adding fuel to the fire of this idea that had absolutely no validity. Like every legal suit that was brought up was shot down, and um, so January 6th comes, which is the day in which Congress goes about validating the electoral votes. Um, so thousands of people went to the Capitol, stormed, and yeah, Trump spoke and was like, "We're gonna go to the Capitol and show them like we're not playing around or whatever." He didn't obviously like say directly like let's call it violence or storm the Capitol, but he kind of like encouraged um, the action of going to the Capitol and being mad about what's taking place. Obviously, if you're in the community, you think an election is rigged, you're going to take that very serious, especially looking at his base. And so after the fact, companies like Twitter, like Facebook, um, and more, they took President Trump off of their platform, like indefinitely, like for good, um, because they were saying that he was inciting the actions, the violence that happened at the Capitol storm, and needed to be banned. Mind you, that he's been censored and like checked and fact checked like hundreds of times on like Twitter and Facebook and everything. Um, and so it pretty much was like a domino effect. Every other company kind of like followed suit and was like, yeah, we're going to get rid of him off of our platform. Even to the point where, yeah, companies like our social media platforms like Parler, which is based on free speech, which is just right lingo for, say whatever you want.
Hate speech.
Yeah, just hate speech. And yeah. Um, so they got removed by Amazon because they use Amazon's AWS services to host their site. And Amazon, after the riots, they just pulled the plug on their site, and so they were literally shut down.
Parler is actually now also officially blocked by the App Store.
And I'm pretty sure Google Play Store as well.
Yeah, the Apple App Store. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and so it was pretty unprecedented, right? Like nothing like that had ever really happened. And I think a lot of people, like myself included, maybe even y'all, were happy that like some of this stuff was happening, because we're like,
No.
we've been saying, well, for me, like I've been saying forever, like Trump needs to like calm down. Like he's president.
He needs to not incite violence. Yeah.
Right.
Like how is that productive?
Right. And so like I think folks, they rejoice, but then I think there were deeper implications about what had actually happened, because it seemed, even though it was based in some logic, like it seemed kind of arbitrary, right? Like, the companies, they cite their terms and conditions being violated, but the thing is that like those terms and conditions have been violated countless times prior.
By many people. I'm sure I violate them on a daily basis.
Right. Exactly. Like everybody kind of does. Like you don't know, but it kind of asks the question of like, how much power should like big tech really have when it comes to censorship, and like even though like yeah, like a lot of folks on these platforms were using their sites in order to like organize and stage violence, but some people, they just were either just sharing fake news, and they were just part of that group, that wave, and like they got censored, and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, like T, like what are your thoughts on that?
My first thought is that's just completely overstepping, and they should have no ability to do so. And like personally, I hate all politicians. I think they're all liars. And Trump was like one of like actually no, not just one of. He was like the first person to get like that Twitter like fact check thing. And I was like, well, our current commander in chief, I mean, he's not perfect either. He's reneging a lot of things that he directly said. Oh, I never said I would do 50 grand. Well, we've got a video of you saying you did, but we're not getting any, any mark on that. So let's get this straight. Not a Trump supporter. I always hated him as a dude, but I'm just like, I really believe that the two parties are really similar, and it's just that Democrat tends to be more accepting towards what these tech companies want to do, and like they give them more, freedom to do as they please. So they're more likely to allow that narrative to be pushed forward versus the other narrative. Now, I don't agree with the other narrative, but I can see when there's unfair treatment going on.
Mm-hmm. And on another note, it's like these like Amazon is a company and they're allowed to do what they want. And like, for example, if you go into a restaurant and you don't follow their rules, then you can get kicked out, So it's well within the right of Amazon to do what they want according to the laws, because and also according to their own rules that have to also follow the law.
But like with their power though, it's like Amazon, like say AWS, the internet is on AWS. Like if AWS like you went away, we couldn't do literally nothing. So it's like at this point, it's like, why are they able to operate as an independent entity? They're basically a public utility. It's like, I don't think they should just be able to be like, I don't like what you said, you're out. Like that's a real slippery slope. I don't like it.
There is, and I think this kind of leads to some discussions about how are we going to regulate these companies' power, because like AWS, Google, they run the internet, so their power needs to be checked on some level. And I also think what's really interesting about the Capitol riot is that there was 6 months earlier, there was all the protests for Black Lives Matter. So it's really interesting how we can just juxtapose these two movements and see how like big tech handled each of those.
Because big tech promoted it, like obviously
Black Lives Matter. They use Twitter. They use social media too to organize protests and all sorts of political activity there. So and the Capitol riots, they use all the social media as well. So I think it's really really useful to also juxtapose these two events. And you were saying, Terrence,
it's frightening. So obviously I would agree with the Black Matters protest because literally skin in the game. But but it's like you were saying, they're super similar in the form of outcome, not by motive, but outcomes. They're really really close, and it's crazy that these companies can just be like, yeah, this is fine, that's not fine, just running amok. And it's also wild because they also pay for the campaign. So it's like, okay, these tech companies, they buy the politicians, and the politicians that are more likely to give them that freedom, so to push their own agenda. So it's too many, I don't know, it's just too much personal, I don't know what the word is, but just it's not regulated. I don't like it.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating because like I don't know if y'all remember. I don't know if you were there, and Angela, I don't know if you remember, but like when we were at Century, I think there was like a mass shooting that happened. I forget like what shooting, because unfortunately in the United States
it happens all the fucking time. Yeah.
Right. But like that shooting was organized, or like the shooter had organized and like planned it all on Gab, which was one of the sites that got censored this time around. But back then they were getting censored mostly through folks calling them out on Twitter and asking like companies that provided services to them to shut their services. So Sentry was one of those, and there's a tweet that had tagged Sentry, and I had brought it to pretty much the entire company on Slack. I was like, hey, we need to get rid of Gab, because like I see here in like our user admin that they're a user of ours, and like we had a conversation about like what it is that they did, And so like one thing that's like interesting is like the power of employees at these companies, like having the influence to steer leadership towards taking action on censorship, right? So like if a lot of people were saying like we need to get rid of this company for X reason, then leadership are going to have to listen to that because like a lot of people are saying that, and especially if it's something that's in like the news.
Mm.
Like action has to be taken. Otherwise, the leadership of the company, they're going to look like they don't care, or like they're going to look, like incompetent when it comes to handling these situations and just allowing uh, a customer of theirs that has this perception of organizing hate speech and violence to just like be current, continue users of their platform. It's not going to look good on their part. And so, um, yeah, and like the thing about that is that a lot of a lot of these companies are based here in the Bay Area, right? They're based here in the West Coast and more progressively leaning places.
Mm.
And so like these companies naturally have that bias. And I'm not going to say like it's wrong or right, but it's something to think about. Like, um, what was it? So like a couple months back, like all the CEOs of the social media platforms got grilled by Congress. I think it was like Senator Bachar, Google, um, Jack Dorsey of Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg, right? And one of uh, yeah, I think like one of the Republican representatives kept asking like, do you know like the political makeup of your company? And like that's something that when we get hired, we're not asked, right?
And
And
they
like
shouldn't be able to
it's
ask
not
anyway. So, oh, that's a tough one.
right,
Yeah.
Ooh.
right, exactly. And you shouldn't be able to ask because like that's something personal about your identity that's not relevant towards the work that you're doing. But the thing about it in this case is that it may be relevant because of the political implications that social media can have. So like the that's the interesting thing about it is because as Jack Dorsey, I can't just go going around asking my employees like, are you Republican, Democrat, Independent, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But depending on where regulators take big tech's ability to censor, and like oversee their platforms within a political lens, it may be something that could be possible. I don't know if it will go that far, but it's definitely interesting to think about.
Yeah. I think this, like what you said, Jordan, also resonated with me because you were talking about how all these tech CEOs were interviewed by or grilled by Congress about certain topics, which reminds me of that time that Mark Zuckerberg was grilled by Congress about I forget what it was, something with Facebook, but it just showed how our Congress people knew nothing about technology. They were
At all.
asking basically, how does the internet work? And these are all like older
Right.
people that were not in the technology industry and did not, grow up with the technology available now. So this also leads me to think that we need to elect more young people into these positions because I feel like we truly understand the power of the internet and the power of technology available today. Maybe the older folks are like don't even know how to use the social media, don't understand how powerful it is. So have ingrained biases towards it because like older folks are always like, oh, the new stuff, like how come people don't meet in person anymore? Why is everything all virtual or whatever? Like we need more young people in these positions of power, to help us enact quality legislation,
Yeah.
on for the industry.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because I think that I saw somewhere. I'm looking it up right now, but like the average age of a representative or senator from within Congress, like they're the age is increasing. The average age is increasing. Like I want to say it's like in the mid 50s, maybe even 60s for the Senate.
That's wild. It's
And
like my grandpa can't. He can't even use Facebook. Like you can't regulate something you
Yeah.
don't understand.
right,
Like you're
right,
bound to make the
right. And
wrong
it's
call.
yeah, and it's crazy because like that's those are the people making decisions that affect
About
people today.
which is why I think that like technology companies, it's a factor why technology companies right now are kind of unchecked because
Mm-hmm.
this is just so new. You got to educate a lot of these Congress people from the beginning, and that shit is gonna take a long freaking time. So
Right,
yeah,
right, right. Yeah,
yeah.
it's I don't know. I mean, the thing about that is that um one, I think we need to curb career politicians because I think that um by limiting or reshaping the way in which political terms are structured, then like that can
Mhm.
encourage more people to actually run, or like younger people to run, and giving them a chance. Because I think the whole running against incumbents that have like been there their entire lives is really hard. And oftentimes they're, at least like from my optics, it's mostly younger people running against those incumbents and still losing. Um, and so it's very difficult. But I think that that's one thing that needs to be addressed because I think that the people that are making decisions about how we go about living our lives and how companies are able to operate and how the economy, supports its people is to have people that actually understand what is going on, right? And the fact is that people are connecting and communicating and transacting on the internet. So you don't know how the internet works and how social media works, then I think it's a problem. Yeah, I think it should be like a requirement that like if you're going to be a uh, legislator, like you have to have some experience within like tech, whether that's like creating a basic website, whether that's on Squarespace or something, just like you know having to show some type of competency in regards to understanding where technology is now, especially just given we're in the age the
Mhm.
age of information, right?
So how do we get there? That's my question. Since obviously they're not gonna make that rule for themselves. How do we get that?
Mhm. Young
Yeah,
people need a vote. Like young people do not vote, and they shoot themselves in the foot.
right, right.
Good answer.
And yeah, and that's one thing I think. I don't know. I feel like it's a problem for like every generation. It's like young people not voting because there happens to be older people that are. But I think
Nothing else
that
to do but ruin the world.
I don't know.
Hmm.
Say that one more time.
So they have nothing else to do but ruin the world. It's like, I'm about to be gone anyway. Why not?
Yeah, fuck climate change.
Right, right. We don't need to save the earth, you know.
All right, Jordan. When
But
are you gonna do your political bid?
say what?
When's your political bid? When you running, Jordan?
Oh, I'm never running. I am never running. I told myself like not too long ago I would never run. I can't. Um, so like I used to. So in my time in college, whoop, right here. um, I was part of student government and
Mm-hmm.
like I had a position. It was director of legislative affairs. So I would look at bills that affected students at East Bay and within the greater CSU system. Um, and I would educate students about issues that impacted them, but then also like visit, local representatives and try to lobby them and give, the students experience about these issues, especially if there was like a bill that was related. And it was just a bad experience. Like
Mm.
just getting the runaround, just getting the cold shoulder, and like actually knowing that they don't really do the work. Like they have people do the work for them, and like they kind of just like operate at a superficial level. So it's like, what exactly are you doing if you're not actually doing the work?
Yeah,
And the thing is like their capacity is so limited that
Mm.
they can't do the work themselves if they really wanted to, right? Because there's so many bills being introduced, within the state level and of course federal level. So it's like, how does one go about uh, facilitating your time and going through, all that language and be effective and be accurate? And the thing is that they can't. And so for me, I just saw that was very inefficient, especially having to play politics with other members of opposing parties or even within the same party and playing that whole game and just battling against egos. It's not fun. But
Politics.
it's kind of why I'm in tech. It's because
Yeah, there's
all
so
about
much ego in politics. I just can't deal with that stuff. It's
right,
like the egos are exhausting.
right.
Yeah.
Maybe I should grow an ego. All right, Jordan. Give me some policies. I'll be like your shogun. You can. No. I'll be the emperor. You can be the shogun. Just tell me what to do.
pulling all the strings. Oh man, but yeah, I can't do politics. That's why I'm in tech. It's mission oriented. It's like you have incentives to like find efficiencies because like you're losing money if you don't. And yeah, I mean it's mostly just problem solving. Like that's all the company's supposed to do is problem solve, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Providing a solution. So
I have a very loosely related question. Okay, so where did COVID go? Like, I really feel, and I've been looking at the case numbers and everything, ever since our ex-commander-in-chief lost, you can just see the drop of cases. It's a pretty crazy drop. And I'm just like, the thing that gets me, I'm just like, no, he better not have been right. Because he kept saying, watch, the second I'm out of office, it's going to be gone. I don't like that his nonsense is starting to come true. I don't like that. Like, does that give some validity to all that ridiculousness he was saying?
Yeah, I mean, he said that. Like, Donald Trump is not a stupid person, right? Like, he's like a marketing genius. So he knew that he probably knew that vaccines were coming out, like, very soon.
Yeah.
So like the timing of that just worked out, and that's why he said it.
Okay. So to really rile up those proud boys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my hypothesis on that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the same thing. Yeah, and I think like just given the increasing cases in some places, some people are being a little bit more reserved. I mean, now it's kind of like folks are getting a little bit more like comfortable going out and doing things because like the vaccine is out, and like a good number of the population has gotten their vaccine.
Has also gotten COVID already, so they're not going to get COVID again.
I heard I could get it again. Can I not?
You could, but it's low.
Okay, so it's like because if I can't, catch me in Miami. But as of right now, while I can, I'm gonna stay right here in my room.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like that's kind of my logic too. Is like if you had it or if you like were exposed to it and you were asymptomatic, then it's kind of. I'm not a scientist. I want to make that clear, but like I think it's the same principles of like getting the vaccine, which is ultimately introducing the dead virus cells the dead virus into your systems, to your body, builds antibodies. So if you had it once and like survived, then I think you're.
So does that mean the new strain just isn't real? I remember we were talking about the new strain about a month and a half ago. Haven't heard about it. I know this vaccine, it's not the new one. So I was like, is it just gone now? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
The variants are some vaccines are more effective against the variants than others.
Which one's the best one, from what you've read?
I think the ones that are given out in the United States are pretty decent.
Okay. Have you been able to get yours yet?
I haven't gotten mine yet. I want to. I'm like, give me it now.
Give me that. So Jordan, okay, I'm looking at the Zoom saying we've got less than 1 minute. It's not being nice to us and extending. What should we do?
Well, that's all, folks.
No.
Thanks for joining us here at IQ Crew. We will be back with you next week again with another segment talking about a new topic.
Are we done?
And,
I don't feel like we're done.
Hope you enjoyed this. I love y'all. Stay safe, get your vaccine, and till next time.